Hi, everyone, and happy to be here again. And I can't see anyone except myself, so I can't say I'm happy to see everyone. I wish I could. But at any rate, today is about acid and alkaline. And before that, just a kind of brief rant. I'm amazed, more and more amazed, or shocked, I should say, all the time at how little information or encouragement there is by any government or scientific body, or pretty much anyone, about the role of diet and lifestyle in creating natural health and immunity to give, lasting protection. At the beginning of the whole COVID thing, called Colin Campbell, who wrote the forward to our book, and asked him, has he done any research on acid and alkaline and, immunity or viruses? And he said, no, no information, but I have a lot of research about the benefits of a whole foods plant-based diet providing protection against all viruses, and how a whole food plant-based diet inactivates viruses. So I didn't get the answer I was looking for, but I got an answer that I really wasn't looking for. But I think there is a clear tie-in between a whole foods plant-based diet, such as macrobiotics, and alkalinity, and natural immunity, not only from viral diseases, but also from common diseases like heart disease, cancer, diseases that are diabetes, diseases that are related to inflammation, all the degenerative diseases that we're plagued with. Now, the reason I got interested, or became interested in acid and alkaline in the first place, is that for years I had come across it and tried to make sense of it, and I couldn't. I couldn't find a pattern. And for me, my life is based on finding patterns, relationships, something that I can understand to use in my own life, to help my clients, and to give to other people. So everything I do, I have that in mind, something that's kind of, reproducible again and again. I couldn't find that with acid and alkaline. Several years ago, someone asked me to do a class on it. And I thought, well, I don't really know much about it, so let me give it some thought. Let's see if I can come up with something. And I did. So my starting place, I started at the end. People have said, and I've read again and again, that grains and beans are acidifying. Well, I thought, first of all, there's two things that defy that. Number one, macrobiotics, as far as I know, has more recoveries from degenerative illness than any other way, cancer especially. If the macrobiotic diet, which is rich in grains and beans, was acidifying, in fact, how could that be? It couldn't. Second, macrobiotic kids around the world, observing my kids, and I've traveled around the world for years, and I've been with so many macrobiotic families and seen so many macrobiotic children from, before birth on up. And I have to say, across the board, they're the strongest, healthiest kids, brightest kids I've come across. And the idea that macrobiotic kids are smaller than average is completely not true, because most of them are in the top 50% for height and weight. So all of the myths about that, because again, if the macrobiotic diet, in effect, was acidifying, then babies would not be well nourished in the womb. They wouldn't grow up strong and healthy with thicker bones than almost all their friends. So I thought, okay, the way it seems, something has to be wrong. So I thought, okay, how can we look at this in another way? And then I got this idea. That is, if we think about ionization, ions, so positively charged ions, particles coming in to the earth, called positive ions. And positive ions make us feel dark, depressed, exhausted, tired, negative, whereas negative ionization, ions moving away from the center of the earth, allow us to be natural. We feel up, we feel bright, we feel energetic, we feel positive. In other words, all the characteristics that we experience when we're alkaline. When we're alkaline, we have a can-do attitude physically and mentally. We have good vitality. We have good resistance to disease. We have natural immunity. We have good digestion. We have good absorption, good nourishment, good oxygen. So all these things. And when we're more acidic, then it's the opposite. We're dark, tired, depressed. We're deficient. We get sick easily. So I thought, to me, then there's a clear correlation with ionization. Now, negative ionization is created by natural movement. So if, waterfalls are revered throughout the world, throughout history. Why? Because moving water generates negative ionization. If you ever had the chance to go to Niagara Falls, it's amazing, beyond amazing, or any other of the great waterfalls. When we're by a mountain, everybody loves moving water, the mountain stream, the ocean, moving water. When you're in the woods, the wind through the trees, again, negative ionization. So I started to see a pattern. Then I discovered something years ago in a course that we used to teach, our year-long course. Now we call it the advanced course. There was this young guy in there, and he always liked to, try to catch me in things. And I said in a class, we all breathe our own oxygen. We all breathe our own air. And depending on the quality of our blood, we attract either more oxygen or more pollution. He said, that's ridiculous. I said, well. Years later, I got a letter from him. He's a pre-med student. He said, I just made a great discovery. All these years, I tried to prove you wrong. And actually what happened, I ended up proving you right. Here's the evidence, the research showing that when your blood is more alkaline, your hemoglobin is able to bind with more oxygen and transport it throughout your body. When it's more acidic, it loses that ability to bind with oxygen well. Okay, another key of why when we're mildly alkaline, we have better health and better immunity and less inflammation. Okay, so 1 is acidic, 14 is alkaline, 7 is neutral. Our blood is meant to be mildly alkaline. Okay, about 7.4 average, 7.3, 7.4. Lymph goes from slightly acidic, 6.2, to 7.4, to slightly alkaline. Saliva, 6.4 to 7.2. Now, this was another key, because when I wrote my first book, and it was translated into Portuguese, and the Portuguese translator contacted me and said, I'm a veterinary student. I study these things, and saliva is not alkaline. I said, saliva is mildly alkaline, about 7.2. I had learned that from my teacher, Michio Kushi, and I also read it in a physiology book as well. And it's one of those things that was firmly implanted in my mind. Saliva is mildly alkaline. He said, that's not true. Saliva is mildly acidic. What do you want to do? What do you want me to put in the translation? I said, okay, let me think for a second. Why don't you put saliva is ideally mildly alkaline, about 7.2. He said, okay, that's good enough. I can go along with that. So what is saliva? Saliva is transmuted directly from our blood. Your blood through the salivary glands comes out as saliva. It's a replica of your blood. If we have more alkaline blood or more alkaline condition in our body, our saliva gets a little more alkaline. If we're more acidic, our saliva gets more acidic. So there's a range. Chewing, interestingly enough, makes our saliva more alkaline. It works in both directions. Being more alkaline makes our saliva more effective. Chewing also helps our saliva. Okay, then seawater is about 8.5, highly alkaline. It's a replica of our blood. Then another key. So stomach acid, it's highly acidic, 1.5 to 3.5, but your bile and pancreatic juice, between 7.5 and 8.2. Not quite as alkaline as seawater, but in that range. So I thought, this is another key to understanding. How do we get the bile and pancreatic acids? Well, they go into our duodenum during the digestive process. So then I started to think, okay, activity and digestion are the keys to really understanding acid and alkaline. Now, I sent our latest book, The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity, to an MD and asked him to endorse it. He said, your section on acid and alkaline is not consistent with the latest science. I said in the beginning of that section, I'm not an MD. I'm not a medical professional. This is my understanding and reinterpretation of acid and alkaline to help my clients. And it's proved to be effective over the years. He says, I'm sorry, it's not in line scientifically. I can't endorse your book. Well, my longtime experience is that science comes around to endorse macrobiotics sooner or later. It usually takes 40 or 50 years. So what we're going to talk about today is not scientific. It's not backed by science, but I feel very strongly that this is solid, that you can rely on it. And one day in the not too distant future, all of a sudden there's going to be some research validating what I'm saying. Okay. Even if it's not, it works. So in either case, all right. So the reason I couldn't understand it, when I looked at the list of acid and alkalizing foods, they didn't make sense according to yin yang. Now I figure macrobiotics uses yin yang for interpretation, for balance, for harmony, for our lifestyle, for creating change. So if something's valid, it should be able to be interpreted through yin and yang, and acid and alkaline couldn't, according to what I could understand. So let's look at the digestive process. Actually, let's look at the pattern first. It might make more sense. My model for health is a mountain stream. And I know this is a bit esoteric, but bear with me a little bit. A mountain stream. I take it that everyone's been mesmerized by a mountain stream, or I hope, at least once in your life. So I'm fascinated by moving water in mountain streams. And I just love to watch them. So you see the water moving, the perfect amount of water, moving at the perfect rate of speed. And as long as it moves naturally over the water, it's always clean and pure. Now, if there's not enough water flowing in the stream, there weren't much rains, there wasn't much snow in the winter, so there wasn't any runoff from the mountains in the spring. For whatever reason, there's not enough water. If there's not enough water to move naturally, then the water can start to putrefy. You see pollution building up in the water. At the same time, if there was a storm and a tree or a boulder falls into the water and creates a dam, where the water hits that tree or the boulder, pollution builds up. That's where you see all the stagnation. It's all funky there. But the area where it can flow is still clean. Again, the boulder or the tree is interfering with natural movement. Conversely, let's say we had huge snows in the winter, the spring comes, there's a melt, a huge runoff, the streams get flooded. There's too much water moving with too much force. What happens? It erodes the banks. It stirs up all kinds of pollution. The water gets dirty. It's not clean and pure. When we have the natural amount of water moving at a natural rate of speed, it's always cleaning, renewing, purifying itself, alkalizing itself, and re-nourishing itself. Because when it moves naturally, the water goes into the underground streams. And in those underground streams, you have bacteria, you have microbes, you have primitive life. They're filtering, cleaning the water. The same like mussels filter the water. Very similar process. So the water, when it moves naturally, it goes in these underground streams, Then it comes out and it joins with the main water, clean, renewed, and renourished. Well, the same thing's happening through our body, through the digestive process. So the magic is happening where you can't see it in nature, and the magic in our body is happening where you can't see it deep in our digestive system. It's almost in the same way. So the digestive process, okay. Our body is meant to run on, our body runs on glucose. Glucose comes from complex sugars, so-called polysaccharides, complex sugars from grains, beans, and starchy vegetables mainly, which break down slowly through the digestive process. So when we're eating a whole foods, plant-based diet, such as macrobiotics, and eating a variety of grains, beans, vegetables, together with some seeds, nuts, and fruits, naturally fermented foods, we chew the food, it becomes mildly alkalized in our mouth. It goes into our stomach, joins with powerful stomach acids. Then it leaves our stomach and goes down into our duodenum, which is the connection between the stomach and the small intestine, or the upper part of the small intestine, depending on how you look at it. So it goes into the duodenum. There it's bombarded with the strong alkaline secretions from our pancreas and gallbladder. In our duodenum, that's where the food becomes alkalized. Then it goes into the small intestine for absorption into our blood to make healthy plasma and eventually healthy blood. So when the food goes completely through our digestive system, through our duodenum, absorbed in the small intestine, final absorption and digestion is in the large intestine, it's absorbed in a way that makes strong, healthy alkaline blood. However, if it goes into our bloodstream somewhere between our mouth and our stomach before it goes in the duodenum, it creates an acidic condition. What foods go directly into the bloodstream? Well, we know, just think about it. If you put sugar on your tongue, how long does it take to get into your digestive system? Just think, till you feel the effects of the sugar. It's almost instantaneous. Well, what about alcohol? It's almost instantaneous. You take a sip of wine, swirl it around, you're already absorbing it. It's going in. Simple sugars are absorbed very quickly into our bloodstream, creating an acidic condition. You find carbohydrates, simple sugars, alcohol, things like that. However, there's another category of food that also is absorbed very quickly. Not all of it, but a portion of it. That is animal and dairy foods. The fatty portion goes into our blood very quickly. So, for example, and I haven't done this myself, but I've been told by science friends or MD friends, if you take a vial of your blood, look at it, it looks very nice, nice red. Well, go to McDonald's or Burger King or Pizza Hut or fried chicken or whatever, fast food, high fat food, and you go eat a meal. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, go draw some of your blood again. It's not going to look the same. It's going to be murky. You're going to see all the fat in there. In other words, it's creating a strong acidic reaction right away. Now, what's the pattern from that? The pattern is what we call balanced foods in macrobiotics. All the grains, all the beans, all the vegetables we recommend, the seeds, the nuts, the fruits, natural fermentations, mild beverages, they're all mildly alkalizing. These are balanced foods in terms of yin and yang. However, the extremes, extreme yin, simple sugars, alcohol, refined carbohydrates, and extreme yang, meat, poultry, eggs, cheese, these are all highly acidifying. So in the same way, natural movement itself is alkalizing. Extreme movement, in other words, if you sit around all day, if you're in front of your computer all day, you watch TV all day, play video games all day, whatever, if you sit all day, you get acidic. If you work too much, you also get acidic. Professional athletes have weak immunity. Most of them get sick when other people don't. Like with COVID, one person got it, spread to the whole team. Why? Because excessive activity, they're training for professional sports, they're overtraining. So normal activity, sports, fun, challenging yourself is alkalizing. Doing nothing is acidifying. Doing too much is acidifying. A natural breeze is wonderfully alkalizing, negative ionization, but a storm is not. A storm is not, it's threatening. So the extremes, whether it's an activity, the weather, or food, are acidifying, whereas balanced things and things that move naturally are alkalizing. And this is across the board. So now the question is brown rice, as a lot of people say, acidifying? Well, the answer is yes or no, depending. If you cook good quality brown rice properly, the way we recommend, you sit down, you eat slowly, you chew well, so it moves naturally through your digestive system, it's alkalizing. However, if you don't chew it and you eat too much, can it move through your digestive system naturally? Well, the answer is no, it can't. It becomes more acidifying. If you overeat anything, so it can't have natural movement through your digestive system, it becomes acidifying. That's across the board. George Osawa said if you chew a food enough, it becomes alkaline. So if you chew a food 300 times or more, which you try to demonstrate, anything, you can make anything just about alkalizing if you chew it enough. So anything can be acidifying or alkalizing. So one of the things we've done in the SHI approach to macrobiotics is change the proportions. Originally, macrobiotics was a high grain diet, high rice, high grain, low vegetable, twice as much grain as vegetable. We changed it, equal grains and vegetables, or more vegetables and grains, so food can pass through the digestive system more smoothly. This is for people, for modern people. We don't live outside. We don't have a lot of contact with nature. Most of us don't have good physical activity or really active, challenging lives, in the 4 seasons. So because of, the way life has changed, essentially in the last 50 or 60 years, life is changing, our digestion is changing, our the way of eating, the way we nourish ourselves needs to change. But in any case, what I'm saying is the macrobiotic diet, as we recommend it, if eaten properly, is clearly alkalizing. Now, when your condition's more alkaline, 2 things happen. You absorb more nutrition from your food and it goes where it should. Okay? And as I already mentioned, your blood, your hemoglobin can transport more oxygen. In other words, you get well nourished, which is another reason why we've changed in our approach. More how you eat is just as important as what you eat. These two, they can't be separated. In other words, macrobiotics, as we recommended, is more of a lifestyle. So we're trying to create natural movement in every way. Rise early in the morning, sleep at night, eat at regular times, be very active, have good eating habits, talk together. All these things are good. So the most important things to maintain an alkaline condition, sit down to eat without doing other things. Because if you watch the news, read the news, you're going to get acidic. I don't care what you're eating. You work, you're going to get acidic because you're eating work. Right? You're eating stress. Sit down to eat without doing other things, eat slowly and chew well. You don't have to be a champion. Just try to make your food liquid so it digests and absorbs well. Stop eating 3 hours before bedtime so you digest well, and stop eating before you're full. Satisfied but not full. We talked about a grain and vegetable-based diet, equal or more vegetables than grains, right? And just have a variety of well-cooked and lightly cooked dishes. So they stimulate, they enhance each other. Next thing is what you cook on is very important. Cooking on gas is alkaline. Cooking on wood is very, very alkaline. Cooking on electric is acidifying. Microwave is out of the question, acidifying. Okay, can I verify this scientifically? No, But through my observation of my client's health, or going somewhere where we had to cook on electricity, through my own experience, yes, you can count on that too. Then again, activity. Find the right balance of making your daily life active, then things that are challenging but not overly strenuous, not past your limit, not over pushing yourself. If you take that approach, then again, you'll become alkaline from the activity point of view. Finally, your home environment. Green plants are natural generators of negative ionization. So negative ionization keeps you fresh and natural. Have a significant number of green plants at home. Try to use natural materials rather than synthetics, especially ones that off gas, highly polluted chemicals, and keep your home free of clutter, because clutter is acidifying, because it blocks natural movement. Again, think of my esoteric example, the mountain stream. A boulder or a tree block natural movement. The water can't clean and renew itself, purify it naturally. It acidifies, it putrefies. When it putrefies, unpleasant things can grow in it, same as in our body. So keep your home environment, clean, as natural as you can. Just think of natural circulation. When you can, open doors and windows. Try to think of pathways, of keeping it so the circulation of air and energy in your home environment is more natural. Then, because standing anything putrefies, standing air in your home putrefies, the same as standing water putrefies. So it's the same way in your body. You can see the standing water in nature putrefies. That means it's getting acidic. It's inflamed. Same thing happens in our body. When we're naturally alkaline, inflammation goes down, cancer goes down. We don't have to worry about viral diseases, etc. So this is my reinterpretation of acid and alkaline. I hope you find it very practical. Experiment with it, and I think you'll find that you can create a mildly healthy alkaline condition from pretty much anything. And we can turn the healthiest thing, we can make it acidic if we do it in the wrong way. So I know that's confusing sometimes for some people, because people want a black and white answer. Is this, good or bad, acid or alkaline? It depends on what you do. And another way, it's freeing because we can change anything, we can adapt it. So thank you. I'm happy to answer some questions if you have them.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
Hi,
Denny.
Hi.
Sorry, 1 second, Michelle. We'll get to you in a second. Thank you very much once again, Denny, for that insightful discussion as always. Now, just as Denny mentioned, we can break for a Q&A session. So the way that we'll work this, we have about maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes or so that we can address some questions. I ask that if you do have a question, either I can kind of see everyone in the room, you can either raise your hand directly, or there is a raise hand feature that is on Zoom that you can use also. Now, also keep in mind that this is live on Facebook and is being recorded. So if you don't want to appear on the recording, you can just send a question directly in the chat and I'll address it that way. So we'll turn it over to Michelle, because I know you have a question right there. So go ahead.
Hi, Denny. I know you have a lot of people here today. Preparing for my second consultation with you, by the way. So I will be doing that. Thank you for this. It was wonderful. I've learned a lot as usual. So my question is, you've helped me in the past with constipation, yang constipation, and I don't care, we're on Facebook, having constipation is never nice. So question. So I followed what you told me to do. So I was having regular morning golden banana bowel movements. And now all of a sudden, I feel like I'm not eliminating it all anymore. Any quick tips on, am I becoming acidic? I know I'm probably becoming too yang, that's what I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah. So if your condition becomes too young, that means too contracted. It interferes with the natural flow, natural movement. So either your diet's becoming too repetitive, or you're using too much salt or seaweed, or not enough lightly cooked, refreshing dishes, quick steamed greens, blanched vegetables, raw salads, things that like that, light, refreshing things, just to relax your internal condition. And by the way, you look totally different, like a different person. Really.
I'm also drinking sake right now to celebrate you allowing me to have alcohol.
Okay, enjoy it.
Thank you.
So,
I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a question here in the chat. It asks, how do you tell if you are acid or alkaline via pH strips, testing saliva or urine?
You know, I'm sure they're accurate. I've heard they're accurate, and believe it or not, I've never tried them. I thought I should try them, and maybe at some point I will, but I don't really have any experience. So the next time you see me, I will try them. I can report on them. I've heard they are accurate.
All right, thank you. Our next question that we have asks, can eating a moderate amount of fruit, such as a handful of grapes, every day keep your blood alkaline rather than getting too acidic?
Again, it's not one thing, it's your overall diet. So we recommend grains, beans, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and fruits. Vary them, change them. So as long as you vary what you're doing, it's always interaction. I recommend a grain and separate vegetable dish at every meal because they enhance each other. So if you're just eating fruit, that's one thing. If you're eating fruit as for part of a varied plant-based diet, it's another enhancement. It adds to your alkalinity.
All right, thank you. Our next question asks, is it wise to combine citrus fruits with other foods to get the most of absorbing iron?
I think so. Like you can squeeze lemon on quick steamed greens or on salad to enhance the absorption of iron. However, a few times a week, 2, 3, 4 times a week, whatever you do, just don't overdo it. And anything you do too much, it changes to its opposite. So, but yes, it's a good practice.
Okay, thank you. As a reminder, if an individual has a question, you can either send it directly to the chat, you can physically raise your hand, or if you would like, you can use the raise hand feature. So I'm just gonna take a look right now here to see if there's anyone in the chat that I can see visually.
Might as well.
Let me just take a look 1 second, Michelle, just to see. Anyone in has a question right now? If not, we'll move on back to Michelle. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, thanks again for taking my questions. I always have a million for you. So Susan touched on it when she was doing her support group, but she didn't really go far with it. It's about waking up at certain times at night. That would mean that your condition's yang, and it depends on the time of night. Is that how that works?
It does. It does. And I can comment on that, but I just thought, about the citrus thing, the lemon thing. A lot of people these days are recommending lemon in water or tea or apple cider vinegar in water. And I don't recommend that at all. Those things, it's interaction. Apple cider vinegar is wonderful, brown rice vinegar is wonderful, lemon is wonderful, but it's the interaction with food. That's where it brings it out. It's not a supplement. You can't control the effects, especially for a macrobiotic person, of putting lemon in water or apple cider vinegar in water. I've had longtime clients that have really done damage to their health. I hadn't seen them for years, and they heard, oh, put lemon or brown rice vinegar in water and drink it every morning. Well, they did some serious damage that was hard to rectify, because over time, it's actually going to demineralize your body to neutralize the acidic things. The initial result is alkalizing, but that's short-lived. That changes to the opposite. And one thing I didn't bring out enough is that when we have an acidic condition, we need minerals, especially calcium. If they're not enough in our diet, then they come from our bones or our teeth. So for healthy people, they come from teeth first, bones second. But in modern people, because the diet is so acidifying, the minerals are coming from their muscles, including organs, heart, kidneys, pancreas. That's why all these are becoming diseases of children. Heart disease, right, in children, diabetes in children, kidney disease in children, all kinds of arthritic problems. So then also they come from the nervous system. That's why Americans, can't think well. They can't compete with people from other countries in math and science. So at any rate, what I'm trying to say is you have to be careful of things that are acidifying. Lemon, citrus, things like that on foods are very good together. Okay, sleep. Very simply, we get into bed, our body relaxes. After midnight, your body starts to contract. Everybody's. Now, the lower your blood sugar, the more it contracts. Because your blood sugar is meant to start to gently rise after midnight, especially from 2 a.m., so you can get up easily in the morning. So the point is, from the macrobiotic viewpoint, if your condition is too young or hypoglycemic, your body overcontracts or gets cold after midnight and you wake up. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, anytime in that range. So difficulty falling asleep is generally too young. Too much liquids, too much fruits, too much sweets, alcohol. Difficulty with waking up after midnight is generally too young, too much salt, too much cooking, not enough light, refreshing things, mildly sweet things. So that, in a nutshell, that's really about sleep.
I just have to say, you reminded me that there was someone who told me to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the morning. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that. And I'll mix it with like apple juice. So that will help me with constipation before you. But I'm thinking that wasn't a good idea.
Not a good idea. We want to move our bowels because of peristaltic, expanding, contracting, wave-like movements, not by lubrication, not
Okay. And also CalMag. CalMag is this post, like this stuff mixed together. A Qigong teacher told me I might need CalMag to take it twice a day. That's before you too. It has stevia in it, which I know you don't agree with. It was from Whole Foods. Do you ever hear of that? It's powdered concoction you mix with something.
Well, it sounds like calcium and magnesium, but minerals come from the earth. We get minerals through eating plants. They're absorbed in plants, especially beans and greens. When we take supplements, they can calcify our brain, our heart, our arteries, our intestines. Again, I've seen nightmare stories, horror stories from some of my clients who were taking calcium supplements. So first of all, I don't recommend it. Second, there's no need for it. Calcium is the 5th most abundant mineral in the crust of the earth. All foods, all plant foods absorb calcium, right? Plant-eating people don't get osteoporosis. It's a rich person's disease. When you eat more animal and dairy foods, more rich refined foods, then you get osteoporosis. So for strong bones and muscles, your Qigong teacher was saying that, but the way to get it is a natural diet, especially regularly eating greens, green leafy vegetables, all kinds of greens, and beans, especially white beans. So that's the best way.
You're worth the price I pay for you, Denny. Just gonna knock it in here. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have another question that's in the chat, and this may just be our last question for sake of time. And I did not see any other individuals raise their hand or pose questions in the chat. So I'm going to just read this here. It asks, what about the pH of water? most filtered water becomes more acid since minerals and impurities are getting filtered out and leave acid water behind, acidic water behind. Some water like Evian are more alkaline. How do you feel about bottled water? How do you deal with the acid producing filtered water? I don't know if you want to dissect that bit by bit or look at it.
Okay, natural movement. There's no regulation on bottled water. It's not a good, there's a great documentary called Tapped, Tapped, Tapped. It really exposes the whole bottled water industry. However, filtered water we do recommend, and we've used a Berkey filter. It's a gravity filter for many years, and it takes out all the impurities, including plastics and pathogens and everything like that, but it doesn't disturb the minerals, so it doesn't change the mineral balance of the water. It doesn't make the water more acidic. So we'd recommend get Berkey or a similar type gravity filter system. They're also whole house systems that use the same type of technology that don't acidify the water, but take out the impurities, the things that you don't want in it. And again, it's moving water that's much more natural. I know city water is absolutely terrible beyond imagination. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, any city water. I mean, if a city says, "Oh, we have good water," it means it's not as poisonous as someplace else. Really, how you interpret it. So, you do want to use filtered water. Water is an important nutrient. We drink it, we use it in cooking, we bathe with it in every possible way. So, get a good source of filtered water for minimum drinking and cooking, and if you can, for your whole house. Thank you all. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Take care. Nice to see everyone. Bye-bye.